What is up, guys? Rick Kakis here. Thank you so much for stopping by, and today, Bungie released a brand new trailer for Destiny 2 Beyond Light, and in this video we're going to break it down, showcasing so many interesting and new things you otherwise may have missed. Guys, there are some crazy new things within this trailer. We have the full map reveal, we have some potential new seasonal activities, we have new units for the Fallen and the Vex, so let's get started. But just before we do, huge amount of people who watch this channel aren't yet subscribed. Definitely take the time to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, and be notified of future content similar to this, and you can always unsubscribe later. Alright, now let's get started with the trailer. Actually, on second thought, let's not. Let's start with the map to give much more context for the trailer. So, this is the complete map for Europa, and as you can see, it's actually got a lot of different areas. 5 actually named areas on this map, and that is pretty significant. Like, that's pretty much as many as the EDZ. Now, I don't think it'll necessarily be as big as the EDZ, but certainly this will be considerably bigger than, the 2-area Mars location, for example, or the 2-area Titan location. Now, there's more areas beyond that, but this does look like at least 4 or 5 publicly travelable areas, and that is awesome. Now, each of these areas was broken down as well. So firstly, we have Camdus Ridge right here, a snowy landscape and the last known location of the buried Bray Exoscience facility. Then we've got the Asterion Abyss. The Vex structures visible on the surface are only the tip of the iceberg. Moving on from there, we've got the Eventide Ruins, once home to thousands of settlers, and now all that remains of Clovis Bray's colony. Next up, we have Charon's Crossing, the site of Europa's communication center and the origin of a distress signal sent by Varix. So perhaps this is kind of like Sanctuary on the Moon, where you go and you talk to Eris Morn and you have all of the vendor stuff there. Perhaps that is Europa's version of that, and we're talking to Varix perhaps, or perhaps the Exo Stranger. But moving on, there's one other location, and that is just Beyond. An old friend awaits us in this clearing that overlooks the conflict between light and dark. Okay, so that old friend, that is going to be the Exo Stranger, I bet. And kind of interesting, you have this location. Perhaps this is that whole location and all overlooks the pyramid ship, or it's just one singular location. But regardless, those are kind of the different areas within Europa, and you're going to see those areas quite a bit within the trailer. So let's start the trailer. Now, right off the bat, we have an interesting scene with a darkness structure being formed. Perhaps this is going to summon more enemy units, perhaps it's part of a mission, but it's interesting nonetheless. And in the background, that really looks like the Pyramidion. Now, I doubt the Pyramidion has been remade per se, but you have that same style and architecture present on Europa. Moving on from there, the next interesting scene is this one here. We see a bunch of Vex, including a brand new Vex enemy unit type. You can see in the background has a bunch of glowing wispy tendrils, and we're gonna get a much better look at that new unit later in the trailer. But just know, you're fighting the Vex, it's gonna be different this time around. But also, the structure the Vex are in is very interesting. This, to me, looks like the inside of a pyramid ship, and we have this screenshot right here to showcase very similar lighting, very similar textures, very similar architecture. So is this actually going to be you traveling within that pyramid ship we keep seeing on Europa, or is this another darkness built structure? Well, that remains to be seen. Moving on from there, we have just some more general cool scenes. The next scene of interest is right here, where the Guardian is using a new Beyond Light weapon and then actually zooms down sights to reveal some enemies within the darkness, within the shadows. Now, this red weapon is part of this set right here, so this is kind of like the set of Europa weapons coming with this expansion. Now, this is definitely not the only new weapons we're getting, but likely this is going to be to Europa what the moon weapons are to the moon. But something I do want to point out is that highlighting of enemies. That's been used before on other weapons, but perhaps here on Europa, when there's actual like blizzards and actual darkness and stuff, like you could not see those enemies before the Guardian aimed down sights. Perhaps you're actually going to have to use a weapon with target highlighting to get through some levels and to engage targets efficiently. Moving on from there, however, we have just some more general stuff here. And right here, this scene where the Guardian is jumping from one massive floating rock to the next, and we see the huge pyramid structure in the background. Like, what is this? Like, this is not the pyramid ship, but this shows that the darkness has a presence on Europa much more than the pyramid ship. There are separate darkness structures on Europa that is beyond just a ship sitting there and waiting. Moving on from there, however, we have this very short scene where the Guardian is overlooking kind of a platform and area, and this is again another darkness structure seemingly leading to a portal or something like that. Perhaps this is how we are teleported onto the darkness ship. Perhaps this leads to the raid entrance, something like that. It does look very grandiose, so that's an interesting one to spot. Next up, we have some really great footage of inside that Braytech facility that was mentioned earlier, and wow, this looks just so different. You can actually see the Bray Exoscience name right here, and this is going to be quite a different experience fighting through here than fighting in the Frozen Wasteland. We also have a really sweet jumping puzzle right here. Now, this could be many different things. Could be a strike, could just randomly be in the Braytech facility, could be within the Deep Stone Crypt. Like, this could be the jumping puzzle from the new raid. Who knows, but it looks very unique. Then we have a bunch of Guardians facing off in a boss fight against a fallen guy, likely the end of a strike, a story mission, something like that. Interestingly, this fallen guy seems to shoot like a beam of ice, and then a little bit later in the trailer we see another fallen big boss guy smash the ground and almost do like the new Titan Stasis slam attack to the Guardians. So we're potentially going to have to fight enemies that have, honestly, like similar supers and similar abilities to the new Guardian Stasis abilities, and that's actually kind of interesting. And maybe these are two different strike bosses, or again, one strike boss and one storyline boss, etc. Then we've got this really interesting weapon here. Like, this looks quite unique. We've got quite an interesting paint scheme. We've got a little like television thing where it's giving off some information on the corner of the gun. Now at first I was thinking, wow, this looks so cool. Maybe it's an exotic, but I actually don't think so because of what we see in just a little bit. So this grenade launcher has kind of a matching friend here with this machine gun. And yes, it is a machine gun, kind of looks like a sniper or scout at first glance, until you look a little bit closer and see the massive drum magazine. So unless Bungie is introducing a sniper with a red dot sight and a drum magazine, which could be very interesting, but this is more likely like an Omelon style machine gun, and then that previous weapon was an Omelon style grenade launcher. So perhaps these two weapons, and they both have that kind of gold or bronzed parts of the weapon combined with the gray texture, like they are clearly matching. Perhaps these are the two Seasons Pass weapons, right? Similar to the Pluperfect and then the machine gun, I forget the name of it, with the Season of the Undying. Like, we have two seasonal weapons that often match each other, and then they don't match really anything else in that expansion. Perhaps that's what we're seeing here. Right after that, however, we have a really interesting scene. Firstly, we have a ton of Vex, like a ridiculous amount of Vex. And then we have Guardians fighting in this arena. And this is clearly, like if you look at it, this is clearly an arena. Like, this is an area where you're meant to have some sort of big battle here. We can see some different like colored crystals floating in the sky. Perhaps you can interact with these. But I think this could be the area of the new seasonal activity. Similar to when we had Season of the Undying and you had the Vex Offensive, this could be Beyond Light's version of the Vex Offensive, right? This could be Beyond Light's version of what was in Season of Dawn, the Sundial activity. It very much looks like its own specific arena where you have this big fight and then you probably get like a chest when you defeat all these guys, right? And then nearing the end of the trailer, lastly, we get a look at the 2 new enemy units. So firstly, we have kind of what is Insurrection Prime, the current raid boss for Scourge of the Past. That's being made into a unit for the Fallen. You can see the Guardian fighting it, and it opens up kind of the middle where you can shoot it. We've seen these in several different locations, so this isn't like, you know, a boss fight in a strike. These enemy units are going to be in several different places, and we've actually seen gameplay of Guardians fight more than one at a time, but we haven't really seen the new Vex unit, so here it is. It's kind of like a Harpy mixed with a Minotaur, kind of, but you can see it actually bundles up and then lunges at the Guardians here and explodes onto the ground. That is a pretty crazy thing, and so yeah, you definitely don't want to get too close to these things. And again, that is a wholly unique enemy unit, and perhaps once we're done with this season with Beyond Light, we're going to start to see this new Vex unit on other planets as well. Very interesting. And then at the very end here, we see the Guardian heading towards some sort of portal. Maybe this is the entrance to the raid. I mean, this does look very raid-esque, and we see these 2 different like weird pillars on the side that do kind of match the pillars you see here within this confirmed screenshot of the Deepstone Crypt, but it's all speculation at this point. In any event, guys, that's it for the trailer breakdown. I hope you enjoyed, found this informative, and if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.